You have your fear, which might become reality. And you have Godzilla, which is reality.
I'm sick of Godzilla.
Wake up, everyone!
There are two things you don't know about the Earth. One is me, and the other is Godzilla.
We're safe now. No human being can understand that. The monsters on Monster Island can understand it.
Whether he returns or not, or is never again seen by human eyes, the things he has taught us remain.
Cool. Hey, welcome back to YHS on Monster Island. We're here. It's been another week, and I think we've gotten through it. We've watched some movies. We bought some toys, and we're going to talk about it. Jay, how are you?
I am doing well, Mr. Spectacular and sensational songwriting sovereign of Seatopia and the stupendous and superific samurai squire of Subaraya, Mr. Jacob Walsh. How's it going?
Wow. Thank you. That might be my favorite one.
I like the squire of Subaraya.
Yeah, that's a good one. Songwriting, Seatopia. That's some good stuff. I like that. Dude, I'm doing well, man. How are you?
I'm doing great.
Good.
I always look forward to the nights we get to record a little YHS on Monster Island because, hey, it's the highlight of my week every week.
Dude, me too. You know what? Like, I do all these other shows. I do Toy Anxiety, regular YHS, and they're fun. But don't tell those guys that this is where it's at.
This is where it's at, and you never say regular YHS on Monster Island. You can't put adjectives on us like that. You have to be. We're in a different level here. We're in a different level.
Its own thing. Cool, man. Listen, I want to jump right into it because I know we both watched some movies over the last week, and I know what you watched, and I want to hear it, man. What's your first film?
Oh man, we are gonna maybe lose some listeners this quickly into this episode,
possibly,
or maybe I don't know. Maybe they'll love it. So I finally watched. And a lot of folks have seen this. There's been a lot of pub within the kaiju circles for many moons here. But I finally watched Reigo and Raiga. I did not watch Raiga versus King Oga yet. So the third one, I haven't done that yet. But I did watch the first two back from, 08 and 09 from Shinpei Hayashiya, who everybody that knows Hayashiya knows, like his claim to fame is the infamous or famous Gamera 4, the fan film Gamera 4, The Truth. But this was his next big venture, I guess, were these two original kaiju flicks. And real quick, have you seen them?
Now, I have seen half of the first one,
Okay.
which one's the first one?
Reigo, the god of the sea, king of the sea monsters.
You know, I was in Walmart one day and they had I was like, whoa, I got to pick these up. So I grabbed them and I didn't shut it off because of how awful it was. I just I think it was like, it was losing my attention and there was other things going on. And I just I paused it at some point and never to return. So I do own them. And maybe after I hear what you got to say about both of them, maybe I'll put them back on.
Maybe not. So, and I would, just for those listeners out there, like, I'm not like predisposed to hate like bad movies, cheaply made movies. I love B movies and C movies and Z movies and everything. And I mean, I think if you're a fan of kaiju films, you know, you're going to get some stuff that is not going to hold up to the general population. So again, I think I don't know, like it's not a prerequisite for being a kaiju fan, but I think we're used to it. So I knew what I was getting into. I knew that these were low budget, asylum grade type films, but from Japan. So I knew that. The issue was not an issue. The interesting viewing experience came because when I put on Reigo, I was thinking these were both going to be kind of tongue-in-cheek kind of kaiju parody films where like it was going to make fun and be very self-aware and make fun of itself for being a low budget indie kaiju film. Yeah. And Reigo's not. Reigo is like, it tries to be a real narrative. It tries to be a real film, but with the limitations of, horrible CGI. Like it's not even worth talking about, like comical, like granulated, pixelated boats and stuff. I mean, it's pretty bad. But the story is like, it tries to be a real kaiju movie and it just can't do it with the restraints that it has. I mean, we're not talking Godzilla's Revenge level budget. This is way smaller. And there's a pacing issue. It's boring. There's some they spend a lot of time. I mean, there's 3 scenes in the whole movie, 3 locations or sets.
Mhm.
It's they spend a lot of time just talking about Reigo, and you see a little bit, but I mean, it's an overall interesting concept. The battleship and the Yamato and the crew against a sea monster. It's kind of all takes place on the ocean. I love the use of lightning, probably the best use of lightning for a monster since, King Kong in 62 or Gabara and Godzilla's Revenge. But overall, it's just not a great flick. It's hard to get through. Like I said, pacing issues, narrative velocity issues, all that good stuff. But what was interesting was, so I watched that. And then of course, knowing that Raiga is a sequel to it, I was expecting the same thing. But that movie is a straight slapsticky comedy kaiju parody. So are they made by different people? No, same director. They are legitimate sequels. I mean, clips from Reigo are shown in Raiga. Yeah. And because it's the evolution, he evolves from that in World War II, which is where Reigo took place, to present day, and he evolves into Raiga.
It's the same creature.
Same creature. It's the second stage.
I didn't even know that. I was confused about it. I was like, so for some reason I was sitting here thinking that you had 2 movies with 2 different monsters and that the third movie was these monsters fighting each other.
No.
And I was sitting here I've always kind of been like, why are they so similar looking? Why are their names almost the same? There you go. I'm a bad kaiju
I don't think
person,
I don't think you can lose any I don't think you can lose any cred over Reigo and Raiga. But yeah, so that's the thing. It's Reigo takes place in World War II and Raiga takes place present day, and he has
that's such a cool idea.
Yeah. So it would happen 8 years before Shin Godzilla evolved. So hey, maybe maybe the Shin people can
somebody was paying attention.
Yeah. But I will say in the first one, the Reigo, the end credit scene is this weird black and white, almost sepia tone with this colored kabuki guy. It makes no sense. I don't know if it's a cultural misunderstanding with me, being a gaijin and not being a Japanese native, where I didn't understand it, but it was weird and it was effective. And it was the best piece of cinema between both two. It was the last 3 or 4 minutes of just bizarre stuff from Reigo. Raiga is a pure, just cheesy, even trying to be funnier and more slapsticky than an asylum film. And if you like that stuff, fine. But it's the humor is pretty, I don't know, it's pretty weak. I mean, you do get Raiga urinating DeMarcus territory on stuff. There's some weird stuff that they explore there, but it's not, I wouldn't recommend either one to anybody unless they're just a diehard kaiju fan, just to see it and the novelty. If it's somebody that doesn't appreciate kaiju films, don't lead with these, please.
Yeah.
Because it is it's
don't
bad,
start here.
Yeah. No, if they like Mystery Science Theater 3000, they like asylum films, they love kind of the silliness of some Japanese monster movies, then yes, by all means. But if you don't kind of check those boxes, I would say avoid it at all costs. But I would rewatch the first one if I were you, at least that end scene, because it's just weird and bizarre. And I thought it was kind of hauntingly beautiful in a weird way. And that was the best piece of filmmaking, I think, in the whole, the 2 that I've seen. And then I have to watch Raiga versus King Oga, I believe it is, which is the third one, which came out 10 years after the second one. So, yeah. So
same
that's what
director, same writer and director on that one too. Okay.
Same with everything.
I'm gonna have to watch it. I bought them with the intention of watching. And I've been known to sit through some bad movies. A lot of times it doesn't bother me. So I just wasn't feeling it that day that I tried. But yeah, dude, after listening to you talk about them, I'll have to. That's an interesting concept to have the second movie be about the same creature, but just 10 years or however long down the road. And that seems cool to me. That seems like something that you would think that maybe a major, production would do that, or maybe Toho would try to do that or something. But no. Okay.
And honestly, the designs aren't terrible. The sea. I mean, you're limited with this a true sea monster. He looks like kind of like a bloated, Chronosaurus or Tylosaurus or some Mosasaur.
Mm-hmm.
But I love the use of he can summon the lightning, and when he arrives, before he arrives, this swarm of like, they call them bonefish, these attacking fish attack whatever is ahead of it, like as kind of this omen or this precursor that
that's a cool idea.
Yeah. I mean, whether they execute it on screen, great, that's a different story. But there's some unique concept. And then Raiga, he definitely looks more like a ultra monster, ultra kaiju, or super sentai monster. Like it's, the oversized hands, but does some other stuff. And, like inexplicably at the very end, another one just shows up. I mean, like it just, they do a lot of like just silly stuff. And there's just, I don't know. But it's a fun, I don't want to fun. Fun's not the right word. It can be entertaining to watch it, but maybe not in the way that they intended it.
Am I watching these tonight? Maybe. I might at least watch one of these tonight. I got them somewhere. Here we go. Right here on my shelf, right next to Death Kappa. Have you seen that?
I haven't seen. I know you've talked about Death Kappa. Great.
Yeah.
I know we're going to talk about creature designs, and Death Kappa we'd have to throw in there.
Yeah, there's some good creature designs in that, I think. Yeah, right next to Death Kappa on my shelf.
That's a good place for it.
One of Raiga is still sealed.
Nice.
I've never even opened it. So yeah, all right. We'll put one of those on.
So that's what I watched.
Anything else? That just the two there?
No, I'll punt. I did watch a movie that you could argue might be worse than those two, but I've watched it about 1,000 times in my life, so I have no excuses. But I'll punt it and talk about it at a different time. And that's Varane. And I watched the Japanese version, not Varane the Unbelievable. And that movie had just so many issues. But I watch it just because I wanted to see some Varane action as we talk about creature designs, because I will talk about him later. But like I said, we can talk about that on a different episode where maybe we dive deep into non-Godzilla kaiju films.
Okay, we'll do that. Yeah, and that's one that I need to rewatch because I have not seen that since I was like a kid. Watching it on like the Sci-Fi Channel. So
and please,
you can not even count probably that as a viewing. So
and that's one that please like. Watch the Japanese version, and I'm not a stickler about that. Like I know some people are like, oh, you watch the dub version, you're an idiot. But this is one. There's a pretty substantial difference between the two, and it's actually even worth watching both because it is so different.
Okay,
the English dubbed one is even worse. It's so bad. But they're very flawed movies. Very, 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 very flawed.
I tell people that about whenever I meet people who don't have a lot of experience with Godzilla and they ask me, where to start or what to watch, I always tell people start with the 54, start with the original. But sometimes I'll be like, hey, you know what? Like there's two completely different versions of the original. Maybe watch them both because and the reason I tell people that is because I really love Godzilla 85 with Raymond Burr. I love that version, and I grew up watching that, and I like to tell people like watch the original, watch both versions. There's a bunch of silly ones; they're all great, but watch 85. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like I always tell them like it depends on what kind of experience you're going for. Yeah. But if you want a real, like maybe a little more cinematic experience, original 84, Biollante or whatever. But like. So yeah, I like that there's two versions. That's cool. I'll get into that. I'm gonna watch that and then we'll do a whole episode.
I dig it, man. So what'd you watch? I'm bated breath here. What did you watch?
I got a couple things, and the main two that I want to talk about here are both shorts.
Okay.
One I had not heard of until a few days ago, and a friend of mine, John Campopiano, sent me. He sent me a picture on Instagram or Facebook of a like behind the scenes photo. And he was like, I'm not telling you what this is, but I bought it for you and it's on the way. And it's not, I don't want to, this is one of those like outlier. I don't want to say that it's exactly a kaiju film, but it does have a big monster in it. And it's called The Legend of Firefly Marsh. That's the DVD cover right there. I had never heard of this. And it was made by the Phoenix Learning Group. It's like, I haven't watched the special features on here, but talking to my friend John says that like this used to run on the Disney Channel. And it was like they would show this in schools, and the special features have a lot of stuff about how to teach this, how to show this to your students and kind of teach a lesson. I'm just gonna read the synopsis from the back to give you a little bit of a.
I'm very intrigued.
Yeah, so here we go. Tall tales, ghostly stories, fog-enshrouded marshes, adventurous boys, and a Loch Ness-like creature all combine their supernatural forces to create a great story for people of all ages. This is a beautifully crafted picture that draws heavily on storytelling as it does on atmosphere, special effects, and strong performances. Kevin, an adventurous teenager, they've said that 3 times. Kevin, an adventurous teenager, gets caught up in his grandfather's obsession. Despite the prospect of monsters and hidden things in the dark of night, this is a very human story, one of courage, deep beliefs, and caring people. And it's basically about it's 30 minutes long, and it's about this kid who
and he's adventurous.
He's adventurous. Just in case you need to know, he's adventurous. He lives by a marsh that has like there's a monster there. No one really believes it, but it's a legend. The grandfather believes it because the grandfather's seen it, and the government is moving in. They're developing the land. They're gonna fill the marsh in. So the grandpa's like, he basically like recruits his son or his grandson who doesn't believe him. His grandson, it's a kind of a weird reversal. Usually the kids see the creature and the parents don't believe you, but the kid is like, you're full of it, grandpa. There's no monster. And but then he comes in contact, he sees it, and him and his grandfather have to like save this creature, get it out of the marsh into the open water, so it can live. And there's some really cool like miniature work in it, and the creature itself it's a really cool sculpt, and it's a fun little film,
That's
30
awesome.
minutes long. You can order this on Amazon, and I recommend it, man. This is a fun little thing.
Very cool.
Yeah, I love it.
And what's it called again?
It's called The Legend of Firefly Marsh.
Firefly Marsh. Okay.
You can now the director is on Instagram, and his name is Gabe Torres. And I looked through his Instagram, and if you make it, you gotta go far down, but there's a couple like behind the scenes photos from this, and
very cool.
There's a cool like they did a whole miniature location where there's kind of like like a castle, on the water, and this creature kind of swimming through, and it just looks really cool, man. It's like definitely of the time period, and it's just got some cool effects in it. So check it out.
And the recommendation was from John Campopiano of Snapper fame, which I believe you have a connection to.
I was gonna mention that because it sort of is a kaiju film, right? My friend John, if you jump over, I'm not gonna say this much, but go listen to the last episode of YHS, and we do, or the second to last episode of YHS, and we do interview John. He's a filmmaker. He's made a few documentaries. There's a Pet Cemetery documentary out there that he put together, and something that me and John have in common is we love these kind of movies, like especially John loves movies that have creatures in it but are kind of like focused on kid stories, that kind of weird charm of those old movies. And John got whiff of there's this film called Snapper. It's about a giant man-eating turtle. It was never produced, but the guys put a trailer together, and John made a documentary. It's like a short documentary, 30-40 minutes long, and they show the trailer that was made to try to get this movie made, and they interview the special effects guy and the writers, directors, and it's a really fun little project. And I did a little bit of artwork for him, so
that's awesome.
My name's in the credits. I'm excited about it, but that's not out, I think, widely yet, but Snapper will be out soon, so check it out.
And that episode on YHS is awesome. Like, it's a great that was a great interview with those two guys, and really cool stuff. John
and David. Thanks, man. Okay, so second movie we have all heard about. I've owned it for a while, and I thought this was I watched that movie and I was like, oh, I got the perfect double feature for this. Howl Beyond the Fog.
Oh, yeah.
Howl from Beyond the Fog. I think most kaiju people have heard of this, have seen the trailer and all that, and like that's another kind of sea creature. This movie is have you seen this?
No, I've only seen the trailer. And then the style it's produced in, which I don't remember the name of the style. I've seen a couple other shorts done in that style.
Yeah,
but
it is, it's all puppets and miniatures and maquettes, and it's all like, and it's worth owning for that. Like it's a great little story. It's a cool little like kind of, this blind girl kind of has a kinship with a creature, and some people rough her up, and the creature gets mad and destroys some stuff, and it's all really haunting and beautiful. And it's just like, I don't know why I bought this as soon as it was able, for release, and I just now got to it, and I kind of feel bad about it because it's really worth the watch. It's beautiful. I think anybody who likes monsters should you don't need to see this to buy it, just order it. And I think there's a second run available right now, like on SRS Cinema. You can get on there and just order the second run of the DVDs. They also, I don't know if they still have them for sale, but I bought it on VHS as well.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
So
you have that collection back there.
I love that about SRS. They put some movies out on VHS. I bought a couple other VHS from them as well. Did they put out Reigo and Raiga in VHS? Because they also I'm not sure if those are on VHS, but that Conga TNT is on VHS, and I bought that. I haven't watched that yet, but man, that looks like it might be just as hard to sit through as you're saying Reigo was. But I bought the VHS because it looks fun. But dude, both of these movies I love. There's always something about, I love any monster movie. I love kaiju, but there's something about water kaiju that is even cooler to me. And seeing any kind of Loch Ness monster-ish thing, I'm into it. Both of these movies I think are good to go.
And that, friends and listeners, is the difference between Jake and Jay. Jake watches these two artistic, beautiful shorts that when you tell your friends about it, they go, wow, my friend is way cooler and smarter and more culturally relevant than I am. And then Jay watches Reigo and Raiga, and they're like, this guy is terrible. So there you go, friends. So we could find two more opposite viewing weeks.
That's fun though. I like that. Yeah. It's better than like we both watched masterpieces. So
it's like you watch Gojira and I watch Gamera versus Gairon.
Yeah, that'll do it. Dude, I also got a gift in the mail I wanted to tell you about.
Oh, cool.
A listener of YHS, and I talked about this in the other episode. So you've already heard this, but I'm going to say it again.
I'll act surprised.
Okay,
because
cool.
it is really cool. It is really cool.
Pretend we're not. Yeah. So a friend of the show sent me a box with some VHS tapes, and one of the tapes is an old episode of Monster Vision. And for people who are listening who do not know what Monster Vision is, back I think Monster Vision might have started in the late 80s. I'm not sure, but it ran for a while. But it was just TNT would just show monster movies, horror movie. It wasn't always monster movies. Any kind of, they did movies like Jaws and Gremlins, and sometimes they weren't horror at all, but they would show these movies, and they were hosted by Joe Bob Briggs. He's a movie host, kind of like how Elvira will host movies. He is a very smart man. He has spent his entire life, watching movies, writing. He's a writer, and he's fun, dude. He's just fun. Do you have any Joe Bob Briggs experience?
I know of it. I know Monster Vision. I didn't watch it. We had TNT and I saw, a lot of commercials and stuff for it and stuff, but it is, to me, like, it was what I'm not, unlike you, I'm not a horror guy. So like, to me, like, even if there was a rotation of horror and sci-fi and stuff like that, to me, like, I kind of tuned it out because I'm like I can watch Godzilla on a different, whatever it might be. So I know of it. I never watch it just because I didn't think it would be, I wasn't a Tales from the Crypt guy or, whatever. So,
I get it.
But I'm aware of it. Obviously, Joe Bob has a big following and a lot of kind of clout in the industry. So like, I'm aware of it.
Well, he's done, through the years, he's had many shows. He had a show before Monster Vision. He did Monster Vision. He did some other shows, and now he's on Shudder. And the show he's doing on Shudder it's literally exactly the same as what Monster Vision was. He shows the movie. I don't remember. I don't think TNT did it this way. The way they do it on Shudder now is they'll show 2 movies every Friday. They don't tell you what the movie is. They'll give you some clues. You just show up, and it doesn't matter what the movie is because you're watching. Because Joe Bob interjects, here and there where the commercials would be, and he gives you all these, like, details about the film that you probably don't know, just all kinds of stuff. He's just very entertaining and smart. And I used to watch, my grandfather would let me watch Joe Bob, and my grandfather is also the one who got me into Godzilla. I would spend all my weekends at my grandparents' place, and he would tape the Godzilla movies from Sci-Fi Channel for me. And then while I was there, he would let me watch Monster Vision or whatever horror movies were on. So, it was two separate things, but Joe Bob showed some Godzilla films. So I got this tape in the mail from a listener, and it's a tape recorded from the TV. It's not like a copy of a copy. Yeah. Somebody put this in 1998, and they recorded Joe Bob talking about Godzilla and Godzilla versus Mothra. And it's it's both films, and it's the American version of Godzilla, and it's both films, and he interjects, comes in and talks about them. And I got home that afternoon and I sat and I watched both, and it's great, man. It's really weird. It's really weird and cool to just watch. Like, I kind of grew up with Joe Bob, and I met him recently, and I watched Joe Bob every Friday. And it's just cool to be like, that thing kind of merging with another thing. Yeah, it was it's almost like a weird experience because it is from 1998. I shared in my Instagram stories like a very short clip from it. Right at the beginning, Joe Bob comes out and he's like, he's like, hey, we're showing 2 Godzilla movies tonight, and he's like, now that new one came out last week. Don't even mess with that one. It came out. He's like, last week the new Godzilla movie came out. Man. He's like, yeah, he's like, they made that new one with a budget of, I don't know, however many $1 million. These 2 movies we're gonna watch tonight, the budget equals about $100. Like that's his quote. And he's great, man. And I just wanted to put that out there. If anybody can look those, or just watch Joe Bob. That's just a general thing. Watch nowadays. It's pretty much all horror because it's on Shudder. Yeah. But man, if you can look up some Joe Bob, watch some clips, or find a movie that you like that he's done, it's very entertaining.
Very cool, man. That's awesome. What a great listener to send that. Yeah, that's very thoughtful.
Yeah, I've been talking to him back and forth. At a cool dude, man. I'm happy to make those connections. Yeah.
Very cool, man.
Dang, man. Well, all right. Well, that's our movies.
It's a good week. It was a lot of good stuff, man. I feel more cultured now.
Dude, we're like, that's a half an hour already. We could end the show if we wanted, really.
No.
Cool. So I want to move on to toys. And we can talk about the news, and also, but to start off the news, have you bought any toys this week? Personally for you, have you bought any toys?
Yes, I have. I bought 2 things this week. No like major big purchases, but I did make 2, I think, pretty cool ones. The first one is actually, I don't support a lot of independent artists as much as I should. And there's a guy out here he's actually in East Texas. So he's about a couple hours away from me. And he's a talented artist, Michael Morse. I think is you can find him on Instagram, everything, Michael Morse Art and Toys. And he does some really cool stuff. And he did this short run of Safubi merging Godzilla and the iconic fast food icon, there you go, but of Big Boy.
Okay.
And and then he made this guy, which is the Big Boji. For those listening, it's basically the Big Boy statue, but with Godzilla there. So I picked one of these guys up. It's awesome. Check his stuff out. He does some other cool stuff as well, but local guy, and like I said, cool stuff.
Yeah. Did you buy a Hedora eye egg thing?
the Egora? No, yeah. I did not. I just got the Big Boji. The Egora one kind of creeped me out a little bit, not gonna lie. But because he's such a talented artist,
it's did cool. What it was supposed to. A friend of mine sent me the big boy like yesterday, and I was like, "Oh, Jay bought that."
I got that.
Also, I don't know why I call you Jay Key every time.
That's okay.
As if we just met.
No worries.
Yeah, I was like, my friend Jay bought that, and I was looking, and it took me to the website, and I was looking, and I was like, man, he's still got some of these Hedora eyes for sale. Yeah. Do I want one of these? They're so weird.
They're very bizarre.
Weird, cool little. Yeah, I like. That's a cool figure, dude. So
yeah. And then
what else?
The other thing I got, I think you'll like.
Okay.
So it is. Everybody knows, I love me some Safubi and stuff, and then Metacom, who's a Metacom toy, does a lot of crazy, vinyls. They kind of spearheaded Vinyl Wars, which is a collaboration between all the big vinyl makers out there. So Marusan and M1 and everybody kind of, they do all these kind of joint production. And in 2015, they did one that was an exclusive to Hastings, the now defunct retailer. And we didn't have Hastings where I grew up, but the books and DVDs and everything like that.
Yeah.
So they had a Hastings exclusive. It was Metacom Vinyl Wars, but it was M1 Ichigo produced an old Bullmark design reissue of everybody's favorite Zootopia cockroach Megalon. And I thought this was such a really cool colorway. And so this was originally one I got to be part of my inventory for Toku Toy Town. And I loved it so much, I bought another one for me. So there's still one, you can buy one of these on tokutoytown.com, but this is,
I get on me getting on your website and buying your toys right now.
But this is, I love this colorway. It's cool. It's really funky. Like I said, it was an exclusive, so it was a short production run. But I love the Bullmark Megalon design, the statue. So it's really cool. So I picked this guy up and I love him. I think he's one of my favorites of the wacky colorways. And I love the metallic blue on there and the random red streak right down the middle. But it's cool. So those are my two pickups. Nothing too crazy this week, but two weird, odd pieces that I dig.
Dude, I love those. And like the more and more I see you buying these like weird colorways, the more and more I want to start getting them. And I don't like that. I kind of want to stay away from. It's like I'm already buying too much. And it's like I've always had this thing where it's like I only want it if it looks like it did in the movie, but it's like a few start to creep into your brain and it's like, oh yeah, but this one looks cool.
Yeah.
And then it just like waterfalls into like, I want all these now. I want all the Megalons. So
yeah,
that's a good looking figure, man.
Yeah. And I bought this a couple weeks ago, but I haven't even showed you yet. And it's actually up here. I'll just put it real quick because this is a good gateway drug. Because, you talk about like cool designs that you're not going to get in realistic figures like this clear Bullmark Aurora Mechagodzilla. I mean, it is like translucent and awesome and just like looks so cool on the shelf. This is one that I think a lot of people that aren't even like Safubi fans that will be picking up because it just looks so great. So it's one of those things you get one or two in the collection and then you just kind of start adding more and more.
Dude, I get it, man. I'm going to have to, I'm going to jump on your website. I'm going to jump on here, especially like one of the ones in the news is sort of, let's just go ahead and talk about this one.
Okay.
I'm going to pull them up. So MediaCom lottery figures are announced.
I can take this one, Jay, because I have a little special in this one. A little nugget that is unplanned.
Okay.
So Metacom, who we talked about with Vinyl Wars, they had their two new lottery figures. And so a lot of companies do these lotteries, right? Where, they make the figures even more exclusive, right? Not like we don't have enough exclusive figures.
Yeah.
Right? So they had these two, and one of them is it's I don't want to say famous figure, but it's one that I think a lot of people that don't get Safubi and don't get really deep cuts hate. And they actually did originally, like maybe a year ago, a green, not the Hedorah from the film, but the actual from the animated cuts and clips in the show. They did that one. So they call it anime Hedorah, but from those little small animated sequences in the film, they did that one. And then they just released as a lottery this really weird paint job on one that is just like, it looks like a pinata or something.
It looks like it's Rastafarian. It's like the red, yellow, and green colors. Yeah.
So that was the first one. And then the second one, they did this really cool Vinyl Wars Gigan EX, which means it's extra big. It's 11 inches tall, and they call it this winter color scheme.
Yeah.
And I loved it so much that I got him right here.
Wow. There it is. So
here it is. It is a big Mama Jamma.
That's a big figure.
Yeah, it is the cool winter colors here. But it's another Vinyl Wars production 2021 lottery figure. I don't know if I'm keeping this one or not. He was a tough get, but I do like him. I'm going to keep him to the side, and we'll see if he turns into be like the Biollante we talked about last week or 2 weeks ago, or if it's like my other stuff. I'm usually pretty good, but I didn't expect him to be that big and imposing. And I do have this like this gaggle of Gigan going on here. I have all these different ones, and I have another all gold one coming in for me. So I'm gonna have this like, yeah. So it's
so funny. That's so funny that it's like we're talking about the news. Oh yeah, these new figures are coming out, and you're just like, oh yeah, I already got it.
It wasn't
like,
planned.
What?
I didn't know that article was going to come out. But so anyway, I didn't mean to steal your thunder, but on that one, I wanted to do the fun reveal.
That's what I was just going to talk about that one because your Megalon and your translucent Mechagodzilla reminded me of the blue on that guy. So yeah, that's it, man. I'm jealous, but I'm happy for you that you own that. That's a good. You open it up, man. You got to open it.
Well, I got to make a decision if I'm going to keep it or if it's going to be something that I put on the site. I don't know, because it was a lottery one, so it's like part of me is like I worked to get it, let's be honest, I didn't work that hard to it. I paid a little bit of an upcharge, but
but then it'd probably also sell pretty quickly.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. I do love it, and it's huge and it's awesome. And like I said, I'm starting this kind of unplanned collection of Gigan Sofubi, which we'll talk about it later in Creature Design. I love Gigan, but I didn't expect to have 5 or 6 of these guys now.
Yeah, dude. Sometimes when I'm looking at Godzilla toys, or especially like what I own, I kind of I've made it known. The few of my favorite monsters, Biollante, Megalon, Gigan,
Jet Jaguar,
but
even though he's not a monster,
but Megalon he's up there. Megalon's probably my second favorite creature. And I don't have anything for Megalon, and it's just like, and the reason for that is mainly because most of the Megalon stuff being produced is the kind of stuff that I'm usually like, well, that's not the kind of stuff I want. I want it. I got the X Plus Megalon. We both did, and
Megaron.
Other than that, there's not much. I got a few things in there, but it's like I gotta start. I worry sometimes. I'll wake up at like 4 a.m. and I'm like, am I a real fan? Because I don't have enough Megalon toys. I'm like, I gotta start putting together a Megalon collection. So,
well, do you have the 8-inch Bandai, the original one from 1991 or 92, whenever that one came out, the 8-inch Megalon?
No.
That's a good one to get. I love that one. I like it better than the new 6-inch Bandai movie monster they're putting out.
Well, dude, I also didn't buy that one yet either. You sent me the links, and I'll tell you, over the weekend, I had one day over the weekend where I opened up maybe 3 or 4 different windows on my iPad, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna buy something today. And I knew it was gonna happen, but I couldn't really decide what I wanted. And I opened one window where I had that Megalon and a couple of the Singular Point figures all in a cart ready to go. Then over here on this window, I had another figure that I guess we can talk about here in a second.
Yep.
And then I had a couple other things that weren't, Godzilla related.
You can brag. You have some hot toys.
Yeah, I bought some hot toys, but most of the windows just all got clicked on, except I did not get the Singular Point figures yet, but I do want them. I'm like, you know what? These will be around.
Yeah.
I better go ahead and pre-order this X Plus.
Yeah. And I think that's a perfect segue.
Yeah, because exactly.
We had, since the last time we talked, we had 3 to 5, depending how you look at it.
3 to 5.
Yeah, 3 X Plus drop. One being really fresh that I haven't even seen it up for pre-order yet. But we had the Real Masters collection, the Yuji Sakai, Godzilla 2000, the Mirai Agoji, the maquette version, and they did a Godzilla store exclusive that had like the red spines and stuff. And we've talked about on this show how much we don't like that design and stuff. So I passed on that one. I do have an X Plus 30 centimeter Godzilla 2000 already, and that's fine with me because it is one of my least favorite designs. But so I passed on that. But then we had today we had the 1989 Biogoji, the Defo reel dropping, and I haven't seen any details on that other than the pictures, and that looked great.
Yeah,
that's a must-have for you.
Yeah, you know what? Like we've talked about it before too. Like D for real is not really either one of our things. Yeah. I believe we both pre-ordered the original Godzilla Serizawa, which isn't out yet. But I also pre-ordered the Biollante just because it was Biollante. and it just looks great. That's a good looking figure. Other than that, I'm never really looking to buy any of the D for real, but because I bought Biollante,
you kind of have
I'm gonna have to get 89 Godzilla. Also, 89 is my favorite. It's just straight up my favorite Godzilla of all time. So this is a cool looking figure, and I'm gonna have to pick it up.
Yeah, and speaking of that suit, we know that suit also was used in 1991's Godzilla versus King Ghidorah.
Yep.
And that's the third drop was this cool new 30 centimeter line, the Yuji Sakai, the Abashiri fight pose for Godzilla, and they released that. And then the Rick exclusive was with like the light up spines. Yeah. I missed out on that pre-order, but I got the standard, which I'm very happy with. I mean, honestly, like, I like some of the Rick exclusives. There's only so many things you can light up these days. Like, I mean, I have a couple of them. I never turn them on. So like, to me, like, other than like resale value, which I'm not selling any of my X Pluses, like it's not a must have for me.
Yeah.
But I absolutely loved this figure, the pose, the sculpt. It looks awesome. And I'm a big fan of the Yuji Sakai collection. So I picked it up. The question is, Jake, did you pick it up?
Well, at first, no, I didn't. I saw it. I saw when it was announced, a few days ago. Sent it to you immediately, and then you you told me that you missed out on the one and ordered it, and I still didn't buy it. But then I was like, what am I doing? This is my favorite Godzilla. I was like, this is my favorite Godzilla look, and I was like, I sat there and I imagined, I was like, well, I already got, the 89 X Plus Godzilla. And I'm like, how amazing will these look together? And then I started like brainstorming in my head. I was like, well, hold on. What if I just keep getting X Plus Godzillas, from this era, from the 90s, from the Heisei area, and just how good that will look. So I was like, yeah, of course I'm going to buy it. Why? X Plus always, it's like, you can never go wrong with it. A lot of times, they'll either sell out or they just, the aftermarket prices shoot up on most of them. Yeah. So I'm like, I'd be an idiot if I didn't buy my So yeah, I did. I pre-ordered it as well. Yeah.
That's awesome, man. Yeah. I don't have an 89 or 91. I have an 84 and I have a 92.
No. We could probably get you if you want an 89. I think I bought my 89 at Dave's in Atlanta, and I think they might have had two. I think there might be another one in there just hanging out. So if you want,
let me know that. You gotta let me know that.
We'll go check it out. Yeah, I'll go look. They did have a couple others in there, but they just never. They have a wall of them, but they've been in there since the first time I've ever been in there. They don't get new ones. It's the same ones. But I think
you and I are the only ones that have bought from them, because I got my Batra from him.
Yeah, we got the Batra there. But and whenever we bought when I got the X Plus, the 89, it had kind of gone a little down in price from the original price, and they were trying to get there. I was like, come on, let's play around a little bit here. But I got that thing for a good price. I'll check. I'll talk to Craig. I'll make him go up there. We'll look and see if there's another one. But
this podcast is not just us doing our toy deals. That's all it is now.
That's what it's going to be. Yeah. Get used to it.
But hey, there's some other stuff too. And I want to kind of throw it to you, because you're way more in the loop on Prime One Studio and all their kind of high end stuff they're doing. They released some dioramas from Godzilla versus Kong, right?
Yeah, they came out. I got a text. I think we were recording either Toy Anxiety or something, and I got a text during it from a friend, and he was like, "Hey, did you see the Prime One Godzilla statue they just unveiled?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, the busts. They're really cool, but the busts are so expensive. Like, they look great. I'm not a big statue person. I don't buy a lot of statues." But the Godzilla statue that they're putting out, that's the bust where he's like sitting on top of it. I was like, this thing's amazing. But also, it's like, I don't know, $2,000 or something. It's ridiculous. It is. I was like, no way. But yeah, then the guy was like, oh no, they just unveiled a new one and sent it to me. And it's this, it's a bust of Godzilla and Kong, like mid-fight in Tokyo. It's a very big, and there's a little video you can watch where they talk about the details of the city, and it looks amazing. There's no price point yet, unless I just missed it, but that's what they like to do. That studio likes to show you the figures, tell you when it's going to be up for pre-order, but they keep the prices under wraps. I'm scared of what that price will be. Yeah. It looks amazing though. If you're a person who's into the statues, go check this out because it's like Kong jumping with his. It's like this. It's like the trailer.
Was it from the Hong Kong battle?
Yeah, it's the Hong Kong battle. It's the whole city, Godzilla and Kong. Kong's like got his axe. He's in the air on a build. It's amazing looking. But you'll probably have to sell your house to own it.
It's a car.
Yeah,
it looked cool. But and then the last one that I wanted to throw out there, and it's not really toy, but kind of merch related. But I thought you'd get a kick out of this. It's 2021. It's the 50th anniversary of Godzilla versus Hedorah. Godzilla versus the Smog Monster. And so Bandai is releasing a whole line of 50th anniversry Hedorah shirts and keychains and hats and socks and everything. I thought that was kind of cool. Smog Monster. I mean, it is probably the most, the most frequented in soft vinyl form of any kaiju.
Yeah.
I mean, some of the collections,
which is weird. Why is Hedorah so popular?
I don't know. I wish I knew.
Not to derail, but since it's the 50th, how about we say next episode of the show, Godzilla versus Hedorah? We both rewatch it.
Okay,
we'll do it.
There's lots of with the director with Bono and all those guys. Like there's Bana. What's his last? I forget his name. It's Bano. Anyway, there's some. He wrote a whole autobiography of about he's the guy that made Godzilla fly, but they're just how controversial that movie was. And it was, detested by a lot of folks in the time period. Like it is, I love it. I mean, I don't love the film, but it's an experimental movie. And I think we'd have a lot of stuff to dig into. Yeah, for sure. Let's do that. Now I got to go 2 weeks. 2 weeks from now, we're watching it. I got to go buy the that anime the lottery exclusive one now to get some inspiration of the animated Hedorah. Yeah, dude. But yeah, so a lot of good stuff in toys this past couple of weeks. Dude, it never stops. Dude, real quick about all this Hedorah stuff that's out. It's all weird stuff. Like none of it to me. I'm looking at the shirts here. It's weird that they go with like a graffiti style font for the name. There's one that I specifically do like, and it's this like rainbow colored. There's one where Hedorah is like rainbow and the letters of the name are all in a different color. There's keychains, there's like pencil packs or something. There's all kinds of weird shit. I sometimes wonder who's designing this stuff because I don't get it all the time, but yeah, I might buy some of that. Yeah, I mean it is bizarre and weird. That's the film that everybody's just embracing and like getting a 50th. Yeah. I mean, if in a couple years, if we don't get a 50th of Jet Jaguar and Megalon and Gigan, we need some of that. Oh, dude, yeah. I want all the dude. I think Jet Jaguar is from all the stuff I'm seeing like in the community about Singular Point. Like I have not seen one person who's disliking the show. And from what I'm getting from everybody, I think Jet is coming back. I think he's going to become way more popular than he's ever been. And that makes me so happy. You could argue he might be the most, and I'm going to lump in Kaiju and Mech and everything together, like, non-human characters in there. Yeah. He might be the most underutilized in the entire line. Like if you think about for sure. I mean, him and Biollante maybe because it only had the one iteration, but Jet had so much more utility that he could have been used in so many different films, and it could have been really good. Dude, I want to see. Think of that, like 70s era. What if they would have gave him his own trilogy? After Godzilla versus Megalon, do it his own trilogy where he's got to fight other monsters that he's never heard of. Just like, can you imagine Jet Jaguar Part 1 and 2? He's fighting, some made up creatures or something, but then maybe in the third he teams up with Godzilla again. Maybe he's got a. God, that's what I want. Give me a 70s era Jet Jaguar trilogy. Yeah, I want to know what Goro's doing. I want to know him and his heterosexual life partner, what they're doing. Man, what if they just made a sequel now? Make a sequel that takes place in the Godzilla versus Megalon universe, but now. That'd be great. How about Jet Jaguar returns or goes to Seatopia and he takes the fight to Megalon? God, we know Megalon's shows up at his front door and he's like, "Hey, you ran and I'm back, dude."
We'll see what Emperor Antonio's up to.
Yeah. I love it.
like that.
There you go.
Yeah.
Toho, call us.
We'll write your movies for you. Cool. So we're gonna get into we're gonna do best and worst designs here. And
awesome.
You know, I think we're probably gonna have some crossover on our lists. And you know, also this is very this is one of those you know, our best and worst might not be your best and worst,
and that's okay.
It's perfectly fine. We just want to talk about what we think they did right and what they did wrong. How do you think we should do this? Should we go through all of our best first? Should we go back and forth with best? And how do you what's the best way to? This should have been done in the beginning before we press record. But how do you think we should?
No, I think it's better on the fly. Let's we can rotate. We can rotate back and forth, some good and some bad. But I have a question though for you. Like when you think of designs and like what you look for, like what are some of like your hot buttons, whether positive or negative, like what reason you would like a design versus a reason that you would. You mentioned earlier like you are prone to maybe liking sea creatures and stuff a little bit more.
Yeah, well, it's just mainly a few of these might be on my list just because they're really weird and just kind of more interesting looking. Like to me, some of the ones that are on my worst are there because it's like these are boring or there's better versions of this or I'm like when you're making a motion picture, you're making a film, you're spending a lot of money to make a film. There are 30 something Godzilla movies. There are so many different kaiju, especially after Ultraman has come out. Ultraman is known for, like, I know a lot of the suits on Ultraman, you know, it was a TV show. They had smaller budgets, but some of those creatures, there's so much more thought into some of those than some of the ones on this list. I'm like, how did this get put into a movie? So, but for my best, you know, one of the ones I have here on my best list might be in one of the worst movies, but I'm like, the design is just so interesting and cool to me. That's my thing. What about you? What's your criteria?
Yeah, I don't know if I have a criteria. I'm like you. I think boring is the way, and there can be simple designs that are done well. But I like, there's no imagination, whether that's the actual design or how that design functions, right? Like it can be a plain looking, you know, dinosaur like creature, but if it's there because of a certain reason, or it does that because it has a cool maneuver like a kangaroo kick, that it makes sense for that suit. Like that's something that I do dig. But me, it's like, is it memorable? I also tend to like, not always, but I tend to like kind of some more of the earthbound the ones that are a little bit, I don't want to say grounded in reality, but like, I like ones that like, they don't have as many the crazy beam weapons. They're less like an Ultra Q or Ultra Man monster. But that's not to say that some of my favorite ones aren't like that. But I tend to gravitate towards those, I think, from an aesthetic standpoint. And some of those you could say could be boring and such. But I don't know. There's something about, I think maybe it's because of, and we talked about this in our very first episode, like the genesis of my love of kaiju really started with dinosaurs, right? So like, I think a lot of those that I think I can see some similarities there versus just straight alien creatures. I write science fiction, so I love alien creatures, don't get me wrong, but there's some that like, I think that that if you have to work within the confines of this is an earthbound terrestrial animal that has some connection to a real living, that animal that lived on this earth, I think it's pretty powerful when you can make that work within those confines. So that's one thing I maybe lean to a little bit, but not always. And of course, the biggest thing for me, and I think it's more for Godzilla suits, is if it's so bad, it takes me out of the film because I'm like, oh my God, stop showing this, or the arms falling off or whatever. As long as if it does that, then it's at the bottom of the list. But other than that, like I'm pretty like you, I'm pretty open, I'm pretty nebulous on what I like and don't like.
Okay. Well, let's hear your first on your worst.
On my worst. Oh
yeah,
man.
We'll hit them with a bad one, and then we'll go to best. So what do you got on there?
I'm curious.
Mine aren't in any kind of an order.
Me neither.
I just put some on here. Okay. Cool.
Yeah. I'll start with one, because this is boring, and it also there's another thing that I detest in monster movies. When we talk about creature designs, is when you have an original one that's pretty good, and they do further iterations and it just gets progressively worse. And I think this monster suffered it from their debut in Atragon to when you see them in Destroy All Monsters. And that's Manda. Manda to me is, they're trying to go with this like Eastern style dragon. And you see that, and you see it a little bit in Final Wars. But this, serpentine long sea monster, that's fine. It's not original, but it's fine. And then you get this basically stripped down giant, worm with a crocodile face looking, just awful. And I love him, circling in and out of the bridges and intertwining himself in the bridges in those scenes in Destroy All Monsters. But to me, there's not a lot there with Manda that I really like. And they stripped out all the cool stuff, all the, where's his horns and the whiskers that make him look like this, this East Asian dragon. I just didn't see it.
Yeah, and there's the worst part about that is that those sort of dragons, like there's plenty, my day job is tattooing, and people get those kind of dragons a lot. And the good thing about that is there's so many different versions and iterations of that dragon. There's so many things you can do to make them look cool and interesting and different. And if you like look at old, artwork of those creatures, they just always look cool. And Manda has none of that. No. It is the most like laziest, boring version of a dragon you could ever think of. There's nothing going on. And Manda is also useless. He's just fucking completely useless.
He can squeeze bridges.
I didn't put Manda on my list because even my worst list is better than having it. I was just like, we know Manda is garbage.
Yeah. So it just fails on every level. But to your point, and I'll say this about it: it is one that it can be done in a really cool way, and I'm curious to see whether they call it Manda or not. Whatever happens in Singular Point, the one that appears to look like Manda,
right? Okay.
I believe I
cannot wait for us to see Singular Point. I'm so ready to see that.
And we know there's the naming issues, and people are going up in arms about all that. But as the whatever, I don't remember if Manda was part of the Godzilla evolution with the Aquatilis and Amphibia and everything.
I'm not sure. Yeah,
but that's one that you could do some cool stuff with it by saying this long serpentine dragon. It's just what they did is it's just bad.
Yeah, dude.
How about
I agree, man. I agree. Yeah. So on my worst list, I'm gonna go ahead and do this one first. But Orga.
Yes. Also
Orga is so bad. Like I know it's like it's also confusing what Orga even is, but he's just like this. He's just looks like a blob. There's nothing cool about him. His arms are way too big, and it's just like he almost looks like a jellyfish. He's there. It's hard to kind of distinguish what's happening. It's just like you're so many movies in at this point. It's like, who thought of this? Like you couldn't make this any more interesting than just a rounded head. It's just like the most bland. I think it might be the worst on my list. I might have said my word. I know I said this was in no kind of order, but like Orga might be the dumbest looking creature in any of the Godzilla films.
They mailed in that entire movie, so I'm not really surprised. But yeah, I said when we talked about Godzilla 2000 earlier that he looks like a Gartham from Dark Crystal, the guys that would go and there's no depth or texture to him. And I think you nailed it. My biggest issue, or one of my biggest issues, is you don't really know what's going on because it's just kind of like they're all the same color. It's the blob. It's like there's no, there needs to be some contrast and some texture there, and it's just like blah. It just what a terrible design. Lazy. It
almost feels like whether you like or dislike Hedorah, like. Hedorah is also kind of a weird blob that doesn't have any crazy features besides its eyes, but there's something that works with Hedorah. Those eyes and the way he's made out of pollution or smog or whatever the fuck he is, like it works for Hedorah, but it's almost as if somebody was trying to kind of like copy that concept of like a big blobby like creature with a face, and it just does not work with Orga in any. It just sucks, man. It's just. Yeah. And I mean, and it makes it worse that it's in that movie. You know what I mean? The movie sucks already, so it's like,
Orga's a big reason for that.
It's not even like, the movie kind of sucks, but the monster's cool. It's not even that.
Space Godzilla. But Orga, yeah, it's just, and the oversized hands, and then the jaw expanding is just really bad. It doesn't look good. Like, I agree. That's not a great one.
Nah, dude, it's just not. What do you got on your best?
Okay, so there's a lot of good ones that I like. I definitely, the good news is I like a lot more than I dislike. So there's that. So I will say that. Yeah. But I gotta, since we talked about him earlier, I want to talk about my boy, my cybernetic space chicken, Mr. Gigan. I love Gigan. I think it's a coolest design. I love the Showa era Gigan way more than I do the Final Wars Gigan. I'll go say that out there. But with the little belly with the buzzsaw, you gotta love that. But he's a little chunkier. It's all right. It was the 70s. They did some crazy stuff then, but I love that design. I think it's unique. It's very alien. You don't really know what he is, in a good way. There's not another kaiju in the Godzilla continuity that looks like him, and there's no comparison. And I feel that's really cool. You get two versions of, you get two shots of him with both teaming with King Ghidorah and also teaming with Megalon. I think that's cool. But it just the buzzsaw, the sickle hands, he flies. I mean, he draws blood from Anguirus and Godzilla. I don't know. Like, to me, I thought that design was unique, original. It feels higher end than like a TV show, like an Ultra Kaiju, which I think it feels like a movie monster, but so unique. And that's one that is always going to be the top of my list.
I agree with everything you just said. Gigan feels like he's from a different brain than any of the other, like, it's such a weird design. It's so far out there. Like, I know you just said, clearly it's more of a higher tier than like Ultraman creatures, but he reminds me more of, Ultraman style. They're just, it's so weird. And the fact that he's like not really explained, it's just like, oh, he's half
Space Nutter,
he's an android, whatever. It's such a weird thing. And I think the combination of the way his mouth is turned, his one eye, he looks menacing, but he also looks like he's smiling. He's
goofy and evil at the same time.
Exactly. He's got such a cool look to him. And there are moments where Godzilla versus Megalon, there are many moments where it is just a goofy fucking like he's jumping around, clapping his, his things together. But then in Godzilla, versus Gigan, it is a little bit like you just said, causing, drawing blood and stuff. He does take both sides, but I think Gigan is definitely in the top. Like, I put him with Megalon. Yeah. And Megalon is number one on my list. So,
well, real quick on Gigan, and also for Megalon too, what I meant, like, they have all those wacky like armaments, and it is a crazy creature for like an Ultra Kaiju, like you said. What I meant was, it's the suit's not falling apart. It's not one that they obviously just took a Baragon suit. Like, it feels like it was just this big, or it was like somebody said, we're gonna make something that's original and like a big deal. Like, I just feel the Gigan suit and everything, you can't take your eyes off of it. It just pops. And I think Megalon's in that same boat.
I want to do some research and see if there's some old like concept art for Gigan where maybe he looks different. I'm sure there's some out there, and that's one of the funnest parts of like finding some of the old books, is seeing like all the, I have a Godzilla versus Biollante book, and it has pages and pages and pages of alternate designs for Biollante that I had never seen until I found that book at a convention. And I wonder if there's Gigan stuff like that out there. I'd love to see it.
I used to have the Toho special effects book. I didn't know if I know they don't typically do like the drawings of his more like kind of behind the scenes with the suit and everything, but I didn't know if they had any concept in there.
I'm not sure. I have one or two of those, but it's like, those are mainly just stills from the movie. But so first on my list is it's Megalon. Megalon and Gigan to me are the perfect pair. They both, like, the fact that they're both in the movie together, and they're both so super weird, but they seem like they have the most thought put into them. Both of them. They, like, I love that neither one of them have hands. They're put into a movie where they're tag team partners with no hands between them.
Yep.
But there's just something about that design, man. Like he's got the weird face, the horn on top of his head.
Yep.
Is he a cockroach or is he a beetle? Because some beetles have that kind of. There's something about the pattern on his wings. Everything about that design looks deliberate. You know what I mean? And I think maybe that's one of the a
his
good
drill
way to put,
hands.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I think is a good indicator of like a good design, is that it looks like, even if you're not seeing what everything does, it looks like it makes sense. It looks like that would be what a mutant cockroach would look like. And Megalon is, we all, in the short amount of time we've been doing the show, I'm sure everybody who's listened, I'm sure every episode I have talked about my love for Godzilla versus Megalon. So that's why Megalon's the best.
Yeah, I love Megalon. I mean, it's one of my favorite designs as well too. I love the drill. I love that Gigan has a saw in his stomach and he has drill hands. It's like they want to start their own like hardware store.
Dude, they work at Lowe's now.
I know, they work at Lowe's. Hey, maybe they built Godzilla Tower, with the previous movie. You just didn't see Megalon in there.
I hope so.
The only knock on Megalon has nothing to do with the creature design. It's just the fact that I would not peg him as somebody coming from Seatopia. But,
exactly. That's
Manda,
a little.
I know you could come from Seatopia, the Moo Empire, or whatever. But I love Megalon. I think it's the horn and like the silhouette of Megalon with that. Like I think it's an imposing character. I love that he spits the napalm rocks or whatever those things are.
Okay, well, maybe that part doesn't make as much sense. Maybe that's grounded in. I wonder if there are any bugs or beetles out there that do that kind of thing. For some reason, what just popped in my head is have you seen Starship Troopers?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
There's that like beetle in that. Isn't there like a fire breathing insect in that movie? Or I wonder if there's some sort of insect that does emit something, and maybe that's what they drew on.
And does he hop? Because Megalon's a good hopper.
They just took all. They were like, "Hey, grasshoppers hop, make him hop."
Yeah,
then he's just a mixture of. He's just a bug mixture.
Yeah, but he's awesome.
I love it, dude.
And it's a great design. It really is.
For sure.
So going back to bad ones, I gotta say this one, and you mentioned Orga's the worst.
I know.
I would say, okay. So there's two that I almost like didn't even want to mention because they're kind of like obvious. Like everybody says this, but we kind of got to talk about Minya. Do we kind of got to talk about Minya? And I know, and I'm not going to lump all of the younger Godzillas in there. I'm not going to do Baby Godzilla and Little Godzilla and Godzilla Jr.
because they're cute.
Yeah, and the Final Wars, Minya or whatever that one is. I forgot what they called him. But I'm talking about like Son of Godzilla, and Destroy All Monsters and Godzilla's Revenge Minya. Man, it just, we never see Godzilla when he's young, so who knows what they're supposed to look like? But it's just so dopey, and the eyes so forward, so kind of human-esque, too much, and the suit is just, by the end of that run, is just disgusting and ragged and falling apart. It's not a great design. And I don't hate Minya in the movies. And I do defend Son of Godzilla and Godzilla's Revenge. We've talked about, and I love Destroy All Monsters.
Yeah.
So I don't, his movies that he's in are not like, they're up in the top to middle for me, but the designs, it is not good. It's not a good, like, hey, let's create a Son of Godzilla. I get they might want to be a little different, but like they could have done something a little bit more menacing. I know it's targeted towards kids. I get that.
But he looks more like a frog than a Godzilla. I wrote him down, but I put a question mark by it because I do think the design's bad, but I've also kind of grown to like it a little bit. Like it's kind of, I mean, like it's almost like he definitely kind of in an ironic way is popular now. And you see people like you see a lot of people who just love him. And I do like Son of Godzilla. That used to be one of my favorite. I love the ending with Great Godzilla and him in the snow. And I do like that movie, but there is some, I don't know, man. It's like, there's something about him that it's like kind of has some kind of weird charm to it. But also, you're right, man. It's not good. It's just not good. It's just I don't know, dude. I've always wondered what the thought process was. That I don't like. You're trying to make it cute, but I feel like there's much better ways. All of the other little Godzillas are cute. Little Godzilla, Godzilla Jr., the other Minya from Final, like they all look great to me.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is, man. I don't know how it happened or why it happened, but he's definitely, especially like there are scenes in Son of Godzilla, like there are different, there's like different, there's a couple different faces, and it's like some of them are scary looking. It's like, this is, by God, what is this? Yeah.
The I think that, you know, obviously they wanted to pivot towards kids, and they wanted something that the kids could, you know, have the toy and just embrace it as this, like, you know, this something that they could relate to, right?
Yeah.
Because they love Godzilla, they wanted the son. I don't think they didn't go far enough with the cute, or they just were very misguided, and they didn't go with the menacing to make it more like a believable monster. Like, so I felt they just failed on all fronts, and it's a really poorly executed cost or a suit design.
Yeah, I bet it's also one of the things where I bet their designs or their drawings of him probably look great. You know what I mean? It's one of those things where, like, you know, they're having to sculpt from a picture, so they probably, someone drew it and it was probably like, oh yeah, this will be cute, and then they sculpted it and we're like, oh, that
he's so
just
round.
didn't translate maybe.
Yeah, he's so round. I mean, Godzilla with the spikes and everything, more angular, and he's just so Pillsbury Doughboy. Yeah,
I remember when I was a kid, I used to, like, in my own head make up, because, you know, like, it's just an egg just shows up and he just like adopts it. You know, like when they don't explain stuff like that and you're a kid, I remember being like, oh, well, it's not a Godzilla. He's not. That's not a Godzilla, because he doesn't look anything like a Godzilla. You know what I mean? His spines are very tiny. It's like, I remember when I was a kid being like, it's something else. You know, it's just, he's to think that it's not of the same species.
He's a Minya.
That's what he is.
Yeah, and so I hated putting him on the list, because I mean, I think it's a little bit of a go-to.
It's okay. He needed to hear it.
We needed to.
He needs to hear this. Yeah.
So what's another one you hate?
So my best and worst. My best is double the size of my worst. I did have Minya on there. So the next one I'm going to talk about, I thought you were going to maybe bring up, and it's Megaguirus.
Oh yes. Diet Batra. Oh man.
The thing, exactly. It's almost like it suffers from the same thing I was talking about with Orga and Hedorah. Like, this looks like a shittier version of Batra. Yeah. Like, Batra is. I did not put Batra on my best.
Oh yeah, she's on mine.
But Batra is amazing. Like, it looks so good, and this looks like the diet version, or this looks like the asylum version of Batra. I don't know what they're doing. I get that it's like, you know, I can understand them being like, hey, we want to do another flyer. What haven't we done? We've done a pterosaur, we've done a moth, we've done a bat. Let's do a dragonfly. Yeah. But it like the other ones on this list,
from a black hole.
Not translate from a we're not talking about the black hole. It just doesn't translate, man. It looks stupid. It just looks stupid.
And the fly and also hurt by the design, but also knowing how it was going to fly, the CGI and stuff in that film, like with how it's flying looks just terrible, and it hurts the design. And that's not a great design. That is that's definitely in my bottom 3 or 4 for sure. Yeah. And I think it also suffers from, it's a bad design. And then also there's something like Orga and Hedorah, like you can realistically compare it to. There's a direct like linkage there.
Yep.
And it makes it even worse because the other design works. And I think Batra's great.
Yeah. I think sometimes with flyers, it gets hard because, you know, a lot of times like a moth or a dragonfly, their heads are small compared to their bodies. And when you're making a creature out of it, I think their inclination is to make the head bigger. You know what I mean? The Mothra's got a big head, but Mothra's design, it works. Like Mothra is great. I also didn't put Mothra on my best because I thought, like, we know Mothra is one of the best, you know? So, but
the question is, what about the MonsterVerse 2019 Mothra? Because that can be a little controversial because they went more realistic
they did
than the fluffy, chubby Mothra.
It's definitely like a case-by-case basis. And I mean, like, even Batra's head's a little big, but you have to be aware that the little bigger head in this design works but Megaguirus's head looks stupid. It all looks dumb, dude.
It is dumb.
Yeah, that's a bad.
Also
that's
a terrible movie.
one, dude. also a terrible movie.
Oh man,
what do you got?
So okay, I got a good one. I love talking about the good ones. I'm not gonna do the one that we talk about the most because I'm gonna save that for you because you love it. But I'm gonna throw one out that people might be a little polarizing. I love one of my favorite creature designs is Titanosaurus. I love Titanosaurus. I think that, I talked about, I love the ones that are a little bit more, earthbound, and even though he's seabound, but he's just a big dinosaur, right?
Yeah.
That's just huge. I love the design because once again, there's not anything else like it with the long neck. He's so tall, with the fin tail and everything. And I love the color scheme with like the almost like the bulging like welts looking things on like the dots.
I like that too. The texture he's got.
Great roar. My second favorite of the kaiju roars. I think he's just weird and looks like he belongs in a kaiju movie of that era. Like in both a positive and a negative way. Like I think some of his flaws on design actually make it more charming. But I love that creature. I love his entrance when you see him first come out of the water, and it's that upshot. It reminds me of like watching like a Power Rangers villain or whatever. For
sure.
But the design, I know it's a sea aquatic dinosaur, and it looks like one, but he's just giant. And I don't know, he's just one of my. And there's not another one that looks like him. Yeah. And that's that tall and just has that long neck and stuff. So that's one of my favorite creature designs. I think he's cool, and he just doesn't. I mean, he just gets a bad rap, man. He's mind controlled. He's a good dude. Like I wish we just leave Titanosaurus alone.
What I like about him is it's kind of a subtle look. You know what I mean? Because he does kind of just look like a dinosaur, but they just add a few fins here. Yeah. Give him his tail, his little antennae things.
Yeah.
And that's enough to make him stand. They don't go crazy with him.
Yeah.
And there's something about his face that I always liked because he almost has sort of a sympathetic face. You know what I mean?
For sure. And he's a sympathetic character. He really is.
Exactly. Yeah. And it works. It's sort of like alligator-ish, the shape of his face. And alligators naturally look, they look noble, and they look kind of like they're smiling a little bit, just naturally how they look. And I think they nailed that with Titanosaurus. So I get that for sure.
Yeah, I love that. Like I said, not a lot of people put him up there because he's kind of, he doesn't have any cool weapons or any armaments or anything, and he's not overly impactful in the whole scheme of Godzilla. But I love Terror Mecha Godzilla, so I mean I think that helps. But I think to me he's very memorable, and I would love to see an updated kind of version of him in live action. I think it would be really cool.
I also always thought that his kind of power was cool, like making tornadoes from your tail. I know he doesn't really. I guess there's tornadoes on the poster, and he doesn't really do that.
Just windstorms, just windstorms. They don't have those budgets. They didn't have budgets in 1975 for that.
I remember being like, "Oh, there's tornadoes in this. All right,
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, then I'll hit a best then. Let's see. I'll go ahead and get this one out of the way because I'm going to talk about it. But my favorite monster of all time is Biollante. I have to mention Biollante. There's something about Biollante is the most terrifying looking creature in all of Godzilla. And to me, Biollante looks the most real. Like to me, when Biollante shows up, the way those camera angles, they like kind of start low and zoom in on her, and when she's like just screaming, and the roof of her mouth is covered in teeth, and she has these big tusks. She looks very, just like I just said that Titanosaurus looks very alligator-ish, and the way alligators look nice and they look gentle. Biollante looks like a crocodile.
Yeah. And
crocodiles are fucking mean pieces of shit. And like they look way more scarier. And they just, Biollante's the best, man. That's my favorite film. I think it's the best looking, and she's massive. And I've always had a thing for like plant creatures just as much as the water creatures. I just think that's a cool design, man. Like a big, evil, scary plant who can fit Godzilla in her mouth. The way her heart kind of glows, and you get that like reddish orange glow coming up. that's a perfect design for me.
Yeah, Godzilla versus Biollante is not my favorite movie. She's not my favorite monster, but without a doubt, it's the best creature design in the entire Godzilla series. It really is. I mean, and everything you said, I can't add anything to that. And I know we'll get to some we disagree on here shortly, but this is one I have to wholeheartedly agree. There's just so much thought that went into that, and it checks all the boxes. It's massive.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, how's this going to work? It's executed beautifully. There's cool touches. It's menacing. It looks real. I mean, at that movie, like at no point do you think like, oh my gosh, there's a man in a suit. Like, you believe it. This is a giant, Rose Godzilla hybrid monster.
That's one of the things too that I think sets it apart, is that every, well, I don't know, 99% of Godzilla creatures is clearly a person. They're all very, very humanoid, the way they're built. Biollante is not. It's a giant mass of teeth.
Yeah, it is, and I know we're kind of, this will go out of order a little bit, but I think it makes sense.
It's okay, do it.
Biollante, and like focus on the mouth region. It's one of like the coolest parts. I think that the subtle usage of the Biollante kind of mouth on Space Godzilla is one of the subtle touches that makes that design, to me, one of the best. And unlike Biollante, it suffers in a bad movie, but it is one of my favorite designs. But like I said, I love this, that when they did the teeth in the jaw, like high up on the jaw and everything, to make it like, because the Godzilla cells go up into space, right? And you don't know if it's the Biollante cells or the Godzilla cells. And I thought that touch made it even cooler, on top of the cool crystals coming out and just this big, giant, imposing monster.
Space Godzilla is on my list for best as well, for all those same reasons. And that's, earlier we were talking about how I alluded that maybe one of my favorites is in one of the worst movies. That movie's not great, and it bums me out how like static everything is in that movie and not moving around. But Space Godzilla is the best idea. It's like the whole idea of Space Godzilla, and that it was created from Biollante possibly, and comes to Earth to look for his twin brother. I love that idea so much, and it's such a bummer that movie's not better. Everything about Space Godzilla to me works. I love the little, the tusks, the Biollante tusks, and also just his teeth are like, there's like no gums. The teeth jut straight out of his face, and they're like more. He's got his like beady little red eyes. Yeah, he's got the megalon horn. Yeah, he's got these giant. Everything about Space Godzilla, I love. He's got this weird design and texture on his chest. Yeah. And he's definitely in my top. He was on my list. I'm kind of surprised you brought him up, because I didn't know exactly what you thought of him. So I like that. He's one of
my favorites. He's one of my favorites.
It's possible. Are we going to just agree on everything? Give me another worst.
Well, I think it'll be easier for us. I think we'll agree a lot on the bad designs, because I don't think those are easier. I think on some of the ones that we like, we might not have the same love for, right? I mean, a Titanosaurus or whatever it might be. But the one that I want to throw there, I'm going to go a big hitter for a bad one. And I'm not going to say it's like people would disagree with this, but I'm going to go after one of the big five here. I detest after the 1956 version, the next incarnations of Rodan. I hate goofy, messed up grill, cross-eyed weirdo, just looks terrible Rodan. Now, the suit gets a little bit better. So this would have been like, Ghidorah three-headed monster and stuff. Like, I do not like those suits do like destroy all monsters. I like the original from 56, a little bit more menacing, a little bit more pterosaur-y, but the almost trying to make him, anthropomorphize, make him like where he can, talk and engage with Godzilla, make it, it looks bad. Like, and the head, the human actor's head is so obvious in the neck and stuff. Yeah. I just think it's a poor design, and he's Rodan. He's one of the greats, but I hate that design.
Something about, not to like get off topic of the designs here, but something that I always thought was weird about Rodan is, he's one of the big five. He's in a lot of films. He's important to multiple plots, but he's also kind of useless, isn't he? Very useless. It's weird. It's almost like they try to force Rodan to be bigger, better, and more important than he actually is. He's there for the ride a lot, and I can respect that. Yeah. but he is such a like, it's almost like they try to make him an equal with Mothra, and he never is an equal to Mothra, except maybe in King of the Monsters. I think in King of the Monsters, Rodan's design in that film is one of the best things the American Godzilla movies have done. 100%. And I liked the American Rodan more than I liked Mothra.
Yeah, I feel you. I think Rodan is, I mean, I love Rodan, the original movie, right? But even in that, like, I mean,
that's a great movie, but yeah, it doesn't look great.
Yeah, but you're right. I mean, he never really does a whole lot. I mean, he's really good at damaging cities, flying over them and destroying buildings. But for the most part, he just, I mean, you're limited, you know, in the 1960s with a, you know, basically a monster with no arms. I mean, talk about no hands, he had no arms, but the wings, and it just, it always felt like he was just kind of the friend in the back that kind of just tags along, but is not really, you know, doing much.
He wasn't really invited, but he comes anyway.
Yeah. And, you know, I always was, you know, looking back, like, could there have been a Godzilla versus Rodan, like, to give him a little bit more clout as an equal opponent?
I think the best, I mean, he's better in Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla in the Heisei in the 90s. Like
Fire Rodan,
the Fire Rodan's better, and he, you know, he has a little bit of a fight in him. I like him more in that than the original.
And a way better backstory too, like where the egg is, you know, the egg was a parasitic egg was in there in his thing, and he protecting it as his own or her own. I agree. And honestly, the best thing Rodan ever did was when they in Ghidorah 3-Headed Monster, when they let Mothra the larva ride on his back to shoot the silk. That was his highlight.
Yeah,
he's just a transportation vessel.
You're right.
But I'm gonna throw out Goofy Rodan. I'm one of the greats. I'm gonna say is one of my least favorite designs.
All right, that's a hot take, I think. So I only have one more on my worst list, and it's 1/2 maybe, because it's the same thing. Monster X, dude. Kaiser Ghidorah.
I forgot to put it on there. Monster X Kaiser Ghidorah is awful.
Kaiser Ghidorah looks dumb in both forms. Yeah. When he's Monster X, it literally just looks like a Power Rangers thing.
Yeah.
It's just a dude in a weird suit. It looks stupid. But when it grows and it's like the 4-legged fat Ghidorah, like its necks or so, I hate it. So
like obviously being pushed on wheels.
Oh, it looks so bad, and it's such a like, that movie's fun. I think that movie's pretty fun and has a lot of cool stuff, and that's such a bummer way to. And I think, and dude, it might not even be their fault. It's that I definitely think Ghidorah is a little overused.
Yeah.
And when Ghidorah's in so many films, and it's like, of course, in a movie like Final Wars, they want it to be big and crazy, and it's like, let's make a weird version of Ghidorah, you know, and it's like, what can we do that we haven't done? But it just doesn't work for me, man.
Yeah, the Monster X one is really confusing to me. I hate how he has that kind of the 3 head kind of together, and like you know, you said, he's just obviously like it's a Power Rangers villain. That to me, I didn't even put him on the list, but I try to block that one out of my memory. That's not a good design, and like you said, like they've done too much with it. In fact, I mean, they should have done something just like, I don't know, brought in like Orochi, the 8-headed monster, and done like Ghidorah, you know, which is just a Ghidorah design with 8 heads or something bigger like that, as opposed to, you know, the 4-legged dragon. It was no, stop it.
It just doesn't look good. It doesn't look good, and it also doesn't make sense. It's like his body's so big, it looks like you couldn't even fly with that kind of, you know what I mean? It just doesn't. It just doesn't make sense. But one of the things that I wanted to kind of counteract Kaiser Ghidorah with is, you know, I put this on my best list as just something to talk about, and maybe you will disagree because this is from the Mothra series.
Okay, here we go. Yep.
But Grand Ghidorah is cool. I think Grand King Ghidorah looks great and looks better than maybe Ghidorah does in some of the Godzilla films. And I don't know what exactly they were doing. I know there's a couple different versions of Ghidorah in that, you know, there's like the prehistoric Ghidorah,
the Cretaceous King Ghidorah. Yeah, I like them. Yeah.
But the Grand,
I have a Bandai on TokuToytown.com.
I might have that same figure. I have a pretty, is it like the bigger, is it a big one?
I have the Cretaceous one.
You have the Cretaceous one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have a grand Ghidorah, and it's just great looking because it's classic Ghidorah. There's nothing different, but there's just something, the wings are a little different. The tail's a little different. It's like such a subtle change to everything, but he looks great. He just looks great. I love the way Ghidorah looks in that Mothra film.
Yeah, I agree. That's probably the highlights of those. And the one movie that doesn't have him in there is the worst one of all time in Rebirth of Mothra 2. I agree with you. I mean, to me, I like all the Ghidorah designs with the exception of Final Wars. I really do. I don't mind the very far out there anime trilogy one. I think that's cool and unique. I like the 2019 version. I think that there's some great shots there. I like the GMK one, as the good guy King Ghidorah, which a lot of people don't like. I like that. I like the Showa era one. I like the Heisei era one. I like them all. I would say the Final Wars one is the only one that just doesn't do it. And Monster X, I view almost totally separate. Like that is at another level of suck. It really is.
It goes back to that kind of being lazy thing, I think, with Monster X, because it's just like a dude in a black spandex and they threw some stuff on top, like it's like, okay, what is this?
Yeah, I mean, come on. I mean, after Final Wars, you have 800 monsters. Why mail it in there? Like, So, hey, because I have two more on the negatives, and I could hit them really quick, and we can close it out and talk about the good stuff.
I have one more on my good list, but I want to save it. I'll save it towards the end. Go ahead, hit these words.
So for speaking of Final Wars, my favorite monster is actually one of my least favorite designs. I hate the Final Wars version of Anguirus. I think he looks okay. I love the original design. I hate the small, like they cut the snout and made it more narrow, and he just doesn't look like a legitimate monstrous kaiju beast. I just do not like that design. I think it's by far the worst of Anguirus. And he's just not as, like I said, imposing, and like I said, the head's way too small. And so that's one that I don't love.
Yeah, I get you on that one too. And like he's never been one that I felt strongly for in either way, but I definitely think that version of him is the lesser version. And dude, honestly, like a lot of the monsters in Final Wars feel like that to me.
Quantity over quality.
I like that they brought a lot of monsters back and tried to do something a little different with them, but just some of them, it's like, okay,
it was tried. And the last one we don't have to talk about because we've talked about this one many times on the show, but I'll just throw it out there. Toho Kong. That's all I gotta say. Toho Kong. The walking carpet samples. I
didn't even think about. I don't know why I completely didn't even think about Toho Kong. You're right, dude. It's bad.
Yeah, but that's really it. I mean, honestly, like everything. Those are the only ones I would say are bad. Maybe if you call him a kaiju, I don't know if we could argue because he's a robot, but and technically like a ship is Mogura. Yeah.
Are you about to say Gary? Yeah.
Yeah. From the not the Mysterians version, not the can opener version. I like that.
I've never seen Mysterians, but I do know he's there. I always thought it was really cool when whenever I found out about Space Godzilla and then found out that they were kind of reusing an old design. I like little shit like that, but it's like Space Godzilla.
Scene where there's a robot type Megazord type thing that reminds me of the movements and how they remind me a lot of when you see Mogera fighting Space Godzilla and stuff. It just is like, what? But anyway, that's for a different day. So it's crazy that of all the monsters in kaiju, that's really all the ones that I would say, like, I just don't, those designs are awful.
Yeah.
And there's so many more that are good.
Right. Do you have any more on your good list? Or?
I do. And I one that I absolutely love. Well, I won't speak to Anguirus because it's one of my favorite ones and everything. And everybody knows that from listening to this. But one that people might feel a little bit weird on, and I think this is probably, I'm in the minority. I'm gonna lump them together. Kumanga and Kamacuras, or Spiga and Gimantis. That would have been how you view it. Yes, it's a spider and a praying mantis. yes, it's not a lot of originality in what they are, but they do a great job making those guys are scary and they're realistic and they make Kumanga like a credible opponent. And the fact that like Kumanga will also kill Kamakuras. And you know, like I love those designs. I don't love the Final Wars Kumanga as much with the big like yellow and black stripes, but I like those designs a lot. And I think that they're just a spider and they're just a praying mantis. But sometimes
but who's not like terrified of a giant spider?
Yeah.
You know, when
and it's harder sometimes for them to design something where they have a specific thing it has to look like, you know, versus Gigan, right? You have a lot of creativity. And I thought they did a damn good job, and I think they're really cool looking.
Yeah. When I was younger, I've I just said it, I've always liked that movie. But when I was younger, I was a little bummed out that were the creatures, because I had, as a kid, I was expected to see something weird or a monster. When it was something like, oh, it's just a praying mantis, I'm like, okay, I want to see a kaiju, you know. But as I, you know, got a little older, I really kind of fell in love with that movie a little bit because of their, like you just said, it's a weird island with giant creatures in it. And I think we talk, you know, it seems like a King Kong movie. You know what I mean? It seems like closer to that. So yeah, I like those guys a lot. Is that what else you got?
Yeah, so I have a couple more, but you know, I want to lump these kind of two together because they are, you know, three kind of, but Gorosaurus, Varane, and Baragon. I'm leaving these together because you once again kind of these earthier type monster. Baragon's a little out there, but Gorosaurus, he's just a giant dinosaur, and he's an old, outdated depiction of a tail dragging dinosaur, right? Like we would in you know, when it came out in King Kong Escapes in 1967, with the oversized head. I mean, it's a, you know, a old depiction of like an Allosaurus. Yeah, and I love the design because it works kind of with the continuity, and I love some of his movements and his fighting ability, and his fight scenes are great. I think that has a lot to do with how the design is. Now, I hope that in an updated depiction, if he's really still going to be this giant dinosaur, that they make him a little bit more of a real of what we know they look like. But he's also a monster that we've never heard of called Gorosaurus. So maybe he is a tail dragging monster, you know, dinosaur type guy. So we don't know that. But I love the bright green. I love the I just think that it stands out. And in Destroy All Monsters, he kind of steals the show. And I love like he has this bulky like head with this like kind of real thin bottom jaw. Like it just doesn't kind of make sense, but I love it. And Gorosaurus is one. Baragon, we've talked about on the show a lot. He's cute but like with the horn and the floppy ears and the ridged back, I thought it's a unique design. And then Varane is a shitty movie, but he's this lake monster that can somehow glide through the air like a flying squirrel.
It's well designed,
and it's just I feel it looks like a 1950s lake monster.
For sure.
And it feels like it has this native tribal island hidden in the tucked away type monster. But he also can spread his arms out and he's a flying squirrel. So I love that weird part. So I love those three, even though they're not always the most talked about. Though we love them some Baragon, though. I found out people love Baragon.
Yeah, I think so, especially like GMK. I you know, Gorosaurus was always, he's my least favorite of those three. I do appreciate what they're doing with him. I like that he always kind of looks grumpy. He's got very like, grumpy. You know, he's got sad eyes. But and
a little bit of a pot belly.
But I always like, there's something to me, you know, I love movies with old depictions of dinosaurs. I like it, but there's something for me that doesn't mix well with kaiju. You know, I don't know. There's something there where I'm like, all right, well, this is just too, but I get it. And I like the other two as well. So I get it. I got one more on my list, and I didn't, you know, at one point I was like, do I put Godzilla? Do you put Godzilla on here or no? Like, we all know he's the best. At one point I was like, do I put, you know, the Godzilla versus Biollante Godzilla on here? Because I think that's the best. I didn't, but I did pick a Godzilla, and it's not that one.
Okay.
It's Shin. It's Shin Godzilla. Yeah. I think Shin Godzilla is the best designed scariest, weirdest fucking Godzilla we will ever get. Now, I love Godzilla, Biollante's Godzilla the best, but this one there's something so different about it. And this came at a time, after this came, then we got the anime. Now we're getting Singular Point. Now we're getting to a place where we're really comfortable making Godzilla look completely different every time. And I love that.
Yeah, but Shin had a lot to do with that.
Yeah. Shin kind of broke the barrier for that. And the fact that he looks different 3 different times in the film, you got different forms. The second form is one of my favorite things in any Godzilla film. There's just something about him. He goes from looking really silly with his big bulging eyes and blood coming out of his gills, flopping around like a fish, to being the most, just like, he's daunting. Like when he first arrives in his like third form, and he's just slowly walking, and he looks gnarly, and his hands look fucked up, and he just looks insane. And then, when I saw that in the theaters for the first time, and his jaw opens up, I was just like, who did this?
Yeah.
Everything about that movie to me is perfect. And the design of Shin Godzilla it's a gift that we've gotten. And, that movie probably is the weirdest, most out of left field. You could put all the other Godzilla movies in a pile and be like, well, these are all kind of similar. Even, even going from Showa to Millennium or whatever, they're still similar. Shin Godzilla's over here.
Yeah.
I just think that design's amazing.
Well, speaking of the Godzillas, I agree. I mean, Shin Godzilla, and I don't even know if you put it in the Godzilla category. It's so unique. It's almost like its own entity, right?
Yeah.
Whereas all the other ones, to your point, like you can all say these all kind of belong together, right? Biogoji, I have to agree. The Heisei, really all the Heisei Godzillas, whether you have Biogoji, Bato Goji, Rado Goji, Moge Goji, or Desu Goji, are all great. I think they really did dominate. And I'll argue Showa, the Shodai Goji, the first one is great. Gakushu Goji, the second one is fine. Like, honestly, other than really the Masuko Goji, the one from Son of Godzilla, which is kind of the weird, like, sleepy eye. I don't know.
That's the one that looks very much like a frog, right?
Yeah, it does.
I'm thinking of a sea monster. Is a little. Ooh.
Well, so the sea monsters Daisenzo Goji, that has a little bit more of kind of the more rounded mouth, kind of a little bit more like the Godzilla from Godzilla versus Ghidorah the Three-Headed Monster. Sorry, 1965 one. But yeah, Son of Godzilla is the one with like, it's just the kind of the narrow face and like the eyes are kind of split apart a little bit. And I don't love that one. But all of my least favorite ones are all basically in the Millennium series, because I don't love. We talked about Mirai Goji, the Godzilla 2000. I don't love Final Wars one. It's not terrible, but with the bat ears. And then I don't love Kiryu Goji from the Mechagodzilla trilogy, because I can't ever get over the real broad chest kind of plate thing where it kind of frills out. I don't love that one. I love all. I mean, Mosu Goji from Mothra versus Godzilla is one of my favorites. I mean, he's so terrifying and menacing with the eyelids or the eyebrows.
Yeah.
But there's a lot. I like most of the Godzillas. Maybe 98. We'll talk about that one maybe in a different show.
That's going to be its own show.
Yeah. But I honestly, Shin though is just in a world of its own, and I would put that one, and I would put Bio Goji, I would put GMK Goji, and I would put 1954 Shodai Goji in a bucket, and maybe Masu Goji in 1964. I put maybe those 4 or 5 in a bucket and say like, these are the best. Yeah, I can agree with that. I also always loved the way Godzilla from the first Mechagodzilla looks. He looks he's very heroic in that movie. He's really like get up and like I always thought he looked fun in that film. But dude, Heisei is just the best. They're all,
It's got a lot of really great creature designs, but as far as the Godzillas go, he's every one of those films he looks great in.
Yeah, and then the Megara Goji from Megalon goes through Mechagodzilla and Terra. Like you can tell the suit's just kind of falling apart along the way. Yeah, I love that one. But no, Godzilla's number one. I mean, it just when you slice and dice, there's so many iterations of him, right?
You know, I almost didn't put it on the list because it's like you don't need to, but it's like I couldn't talk about best designs and not talk about Shin. I just couldn't. So
no, that's fair. I mean, I think Shin and Biollante, Space Godzilla, I think those probably, and maybe Showa era King Ghidorah, just because how iconic it is. But it's hard to beat those because of originality and execution. And but like I mean, Biollante and Shin, I know you're two boys with Megalon, of course. It's hard to beat.
I agree, man. Boy, we did it. We knocked
a lot of monsters, man.
And I do want to say that like these are our opinions and they're right. They're the correct opinions.
I love it. I didn't expect us to agree on everything. I mean, maybe we have a little bit of disagreement on.
I kind of did, man. Yeah. I thought maybe I figured we probably were going to agree. Oh, I was surprised you had Space Godzilla on your. I thought you wouldn't have had that up there.
No, so, I mean, I have the X plus of him. He's one of my favorite designs. Yeah. I love that guy. But just the movies.
Yeah, I get it, man. Cool. So next episode we're gonna hit Hedorah. We're gonna talk all things Smog Monster. We'll watch
experimental filmmaking in kaiju.
Yeah, dude, we'll do it. We'll hit it up. Cool, man. You got any notes? Anything else? Anything you want to plug or talk about here before we sign off?
No, I just love doing this, man. I hope everybody else is. I'd love for folks to, reach out and, of course, subscribe and leave a 5-star rating and review. It really does help. And I know you won't say it, but if you're discovering us before everything else from Yes Have Some and the Yes Have Some network and the huge interweb of all your programming, YHS Prime, Yes Have Some. You guys have been killing it. You have such a loyal fan base. It's awesome.
Thanks, man.
That's just it's really kind of the core of all this. But also you're on Toy Anxiety, which is a massive hit. Oh my God. It is appointment viewing on Tuesday nights to watch you and Craig and Abby and the kingpin of Canadian collectors, Ryan Dole, just like talk toys. It's fun, man. I'm hoping that eventually we have a kaiju segment on there where we can come in there and say, hey, dude, I know you know about Masters of the Universe and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Star Wars and everything, but hey, we're gonna talk some Safubi, we're gonna talk some X Plus, but that's what this show is for.
Yeah, we're gonna take over one week. Also, I will say that Toy Anxiety is live and it's fun, and if you're a toy collector and you like that kind of stuff, check it out. Especially the end of the show, what we like to do is read sad comments from people who, anytime NECA makes an announcement or Super 7, you get hundreds of comments, and most of those comments are people being annoyed about something. And we like to take the funnest ones and read them on the show. Dude, also we're all up in the Jeffries this year. I know nobody really knows what the Jeffries are, but Jeffries it's a toy award show that we do at the end of the year. It's going to be a yearly thing. Yes Have Some created it last year. We do best toys of the year, peg warmer awards, Hall of Fame stuff. And this year we're doing a kaiju category.
I love it.
So we're gonna be in there.
And I'll say, Jake, nobody's heard sad comments until they hear some X Plus sad comments. So maybe we have to throw in every now and then some when a big pre-order drops, like how people just flip out there. And then of course I would be remiss if I didn't mention the other thing in y'all's network. How about this awesome new show that Abby's launched, Bad Bitches, about the Bad Batch? I watched the first episode and I was blown away with how good that trio is. I mean, round of applause to Abby and Kat and Ryan.
Dude, I honestly, when they were doing the first episode, I was talking to Craig and Abby beforehand, and I was like, Abby, are you nervous about it? I was very nervous when I did the first episode of this with you. I was nervous to kind of be like having the hosting duties, and And I was talking to Abby about it. And, you know, like, of course, everybody's nervous in that kind of situation. But when she got it, when I was sitting on my couch watching it, I texted Craig and I was like, Craig, is Abby better at this than we are? I think Abby's better than we are at this.
She's great.
She does really good, man. She's great. That's a good show. And, you know, I'm not completely caught up on Bad Batch, but like, I'm going to watch that anyway. And I'm going to try to catch up before the next episode. But that's Mondays at 9:30 live on YouTube. So at the, you know, just find Yes Have Some on YouTube, and there's tons of content. And it's like
great stuff.
You know, there's stuff, you know, we're on there. So if you're watching us on there, you already, you know, you can go to the Yes Have Some playlist, or there's toy like tours, there's all kinds of shit on the Yes Have Some YouTube. So there's something on there you're gonna like, you know. But I just want to thank everybody for listening. I have been getting some people have been reaching out to me and letting me know. Last episode, I was like, please let me know you're listening, so I don't think I'm just talking, you know, to nobody. But yeah, I've had some people reach out and people are listening and they like it, and that's great, man. So I just want to say thanks. And Jay, thank you for doing this with me.
Hey, and everybody, go watch a Godzilla movie. Come on,
watch
what are you waiting for?
Godzilla movie.
Yeah, go watch one. We want you to have some opinions on these creature designs too. Go watch some of these and tell us how crazy you think we are.
I want to hear it for sure. Tell me, I want to hear that I'm wrong, please.
Yep. I love it, man.
All right. Bye, guys.
Adios.